Phoebe. You know what, Josephine, she's a liar. Her granny didn't die. She's just playing off my dad's sympathy. And if her parents find out what she is doing, they will punish her. Josephine. My parents don't want me. Let me stay because I have nowhere to go. Phoebe shaking her head, another lie, because she's got wonderful parents, but it is her that don't treat them right. Malcolm caving in. Oh, okay, you can stay with me again the night. You had better borrow this nightdress. Tries to turn away from seeing her naked body. Josephine. I don't need this nightdress because I don't like it. Malcolm getting under the blankets. Why not? You look really pretty in it. Just put it on. She puts in and under Malcolm's command, but sulks. Then she gets under the blanket with him, which leads them both into sin again. Josephine goes off to sleep smiling, but poor Malcolm had himself into that horrible cycle again, and he silently felt guilty and cried himself off to sleep silently with heavy tears pouring down his face. During the next 3 months, a lot has happened. Josephine continued to play on Malcolm's emotions, to buy her gifts, and to have his way with her. And he continued in the circle of making love, buying her gifts and then being angry, sad and guilty. Phoebe and Riley had double weddings to Nick and Justine and had moved out. The only children left was Christina's son, Paul, Samuel, the servant girls, and Christina. Malcolm's friendship with Joyce was blossoming. Joyce thought that they were having a relationship because Malcolm complimented her a lot and gave her mixed signs, but he just saw her as a friend. Joyce was nice enough and a good friend to Malcolm, and at least she didn't use him and listen to his heart. But the problem was she was very jealous of other women who seemed to like Malcolm and was into tarot cards, which Malcolm was yet unaware of, so she wasn't right for him. But she did stick up for Malcolm and was a great friend to him. Also back in Russia, Julia was getting herself sorted and managed to get the children back after a long and hard battle, but only on the condition that Peter and his sisters went back to their America home. When they went back to collect Peter, there was such a happy reunion, 8-year. Peter ran straight into his parents' arms and wept in relief to be reunited again. So we started our journey back to America and left a lot of stuff behind, but we didn't care because we were just told to rush home. The family then got the next ship back home to America and started their travels. Also, Sharon's children were happy to hear that their parents were coming back home. Back at Malcolm's home, Malcolm was getting angry again. He was so angry about every little thing that went wrong. This time he was angry because the cook didn't cook the chicken for him. Malcolm, uttering under his breath, I wish I had the old cook back. This no good for nothing, young cook is useless. Malcolm stern in his voice. I never asked for pasta and cheese, I asked for chicken. So why give me something else? Cook. So sorry, sir, I thought you wanted pasta and cheese. Malcolm. Don't worry. I will kill the chicken myself and prepare it myself, in an angry tone. Cook. No, that's my job. Malcolm. Shut up, let me do it. You're not even doing your job. So, in anger, Malcolm, who usually hates to kill animals, got angry, did not care this time, went to the chicken house and slaughtered his own chicken. Josephine came about and laughed, thinking it was funny to see Malcolm angry. Malcolm. Josephine. It's not funny. I'm hungry and want chicken, not cheese and pasta. Malcolm came back with the chicken covered in blood. Malcolm. Pluck and prepare this chicken. Now you useless cook, raises his eyebrows and goes back to bed until dinner is ready. Joyce came and knocks his door and saw Malcolm with tears streaming down his face. She hugged and comforted him and talked and listened to him. He was angry, and that chicken was the unfortunate thing that he took his anger out upon. Josephine comes through, knocking the door. Joyce. Leave Malcolm alone because you just keep upsetting him. Nick and Riley came to visit Malcolm, and they felt a bit awkward sitting around the table with both Josephine and Joyce, but Nick was blunt and told what he thought, even with both ladies there. Nick: "You need to choose between either Joyce and Josephine. It's not fair to either of them." Josephine: "Well, I have had my wicked way with him, but Joyce hasn't." Joyce: "And I listened to his heart, so when have you ever done that?" "I will answer that question, you don't." Nick, shaking his head: "For goodness sakes, girls, get yourselves sorted." The chicken that Malcolm had killed was now plucked and cooked, and the cook then brought the chicken to the table. Everyone tucked into it, including the cook. The ladies kept giving each other funny looks. Malcolm getting irritated again. "For goodness sake, cook, eat with your mouth closed and stop making a noise when you eat it. Very annoying." So he does what he told. After dinner, Joyce, Nick, and Riley go back to their homes again. As usual, Josephine gets Michael to have his way with him, and leaving him after to feel angry and guilty again. Although this time, after they do the act, Josephine confesses to her sins. Josephine, crying Malcolm: "I really love you, but I need to confess something before our relationship goes further." Malcolm: "What's that?" Josephine: "The cook and I have been having an affair, and I have been telling you lies to make you buy me presents each time." Malcolm shouting: "Get out! I never want to see you again." Josephine: Please, Malcolm forgives me." Malcolm speaking softly: How could you do this to me? You're a bad young lady, but my Julia or Christina would never have done this to me." Josephine: "Except Julia did go off and marry another man, and you lost her forever." Malcolm crying slapped her across the face. "Don't ever talk about my Julia like this. Just go." So that evening he dumped Josephine and fired the cook, and he went to his bed crying his eyes out, screaming and asking Christina for forgiveness. Samuel had phoned up Joyce, and she came back again and went up to his bedroom. She hugged him, looked after him again, and even wiped away his tears. Malcolm: "Joyce, you're the most beautiful woman in this world. Can I take you out tonight?" Joyce, smiling: "Yes, please." So he gets dressed to take her out. While they are going out, he takes her in the hallway and starts to passionately kiss Joyce. Chapter 18. A Tragic Journey Home. That evening, Malcolm took Joyce out on a date while Paul and Samuel looked after little Christina. Malcolm and Joyce enjoyed the romantic moonlight dinner date with each other, and they had a nice time out. Malcolm tried it with Joyce, but Joyce was grown and a mature woman and would not let him try it on with her. Malcolm grabbing her by the arm: "Maybe we can take this further." Joyce: "No, because I respect. You are not ready for a new relationship. You are still understandable grieving over Christina, and that's what your fling with Josephine was all about, to fill the gap in your heart. I would love to be your girlfriend, but we need to take it slow." Malcolm: "Thank you for your understanding and patience. You a very special lady." Joyce smiling: "We will still be very close friends." Malcolm kissing her hand, of course. After the date, Joyce went back to her home and Malcolm went back home and to his bed, feeling very much alone. He liked Joyce, but he felt an ache in his heart, longing to be loved and touched again by someone special. He walked over to baby Christina, kissing her 1,000 times, and hugging her close, and smiled with tears in his eyes, and she smiled back at her father. The toddler then settled down for the night with her loving and doting father watching over her, but then he got tired and yawned. Malcolm: "Good night, little angel. You're the one that makes life worth the living. Daddy's been a foolish man, but I'm going to change for your sake." He then went off to bed while still looking at his precious daughter. The next day, back in Russia, Julia, Trapp, and family are still sailing on the Russian seas to come back to America. They sail out of Russia, passing through the Mediterranean, then sailing over the Atlantic Ocean. But as they get very close to America, the most awful accident happened. The boat hit an iceberg in the Canadian water that come out of the ocean. The boat gave a huge thud, which shook all the people on the boat, and people starts running about and start screaming. Captain of the ship, people, we have hit an iceberg. We are in Canada. The rough seas drifted the ship all the way out here. But please don't panic. We are only a mile away from land, so we can get help from land. I just need to call out a mayday on my device, and then the people on land will come to rescue us. Sharon and Julia started crying, and especially poor little Peter, Maria, and Dawn was terrified. It was tragic because Trapp and Julia had just sorted things with both their bad marriage and in getting back the children. Then this awful thing had to happen. But not just to them, but to everyone on the ship. Both Julia's and Sharon's husbands trying to calm them down. Trapp hugging Julia and the children. It's okay, sweethearts. God will look after us. I will now dedicate my life to Jesus here on the spot from this day forward and ask him to help us all out of this ship. So right there and then, with Julia and the children witnessing, her husband repented of his sins, dedicated, and gave his life to Jesus. Ben, darling, it will be okay, I promise you. All the people on the ship are running back and forth screaming. Help then had come back from the land, but only the women and children could aboard the rescue boats first. Julia crying her eyes out. Trapp, I'm not going without you or my dad. Trapp, now listen to me, girl. Remember, I will always love you, Peter, Maria, and Dawn. But whatever happens to me and where I will be in heaven or on earth, but please rescue yourself and the children. Please go with your sister and the children. Please do it for the children if you don't want to do it for yourself. Julia, no, 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 crying. I need you. You're my husband. Sharon crying her eyes out. I can't leave Ben or our dad either. Ben, Sharon, just go. The children will need you, and remember, whether I end up in heaven or stay on earth, I will still love you forever. The girl's dad, Sharon and Julia, please go, my two precious pearls. Go to the boats because you need to rescue yourself and the children. Peter and the girls run off to the boats. Sharon then grabs Julia's hand and runs off together with her to catch up the children. Sharon, come on, Julia. Our husbands and dad is right, because anyone can see how the children are scared. Julia, no, I must not leave my husband, dad, and brother-in-law to die. Ben, Trapp, and the sisters' dad smiled at them as the sisters and children climbed into the rescue boats and sent them blow kisses. While every woman and child was rescued, all the women and children watched on as the ship sunk deep into the ocean, leaving the sisters and all the women and children crying their eyes out, and Julia and Sharon were hugging each other as they witnessed the ship disappear into the ocean. Back on dry land, no woman or child lost their lives. One of the sailors also informed us that everyone but one man was rescued and safe. Julia and Sharon looked on, feeling very worried, and because Julia and Sharon was very close, they could read each other's thoughts, and Sharon knew that Julia was worried that someone in their family was lost. Sharon, don't worry, beloved sister. Trapp, Ben, and Dad will be safe and come back to us again, and you can start your happiest life together with Trapp. You will have your happy ending after all. I promise that to your sister because you're a very special person and deserve to have a happy ending. So, as every man come of the rescue boats, the sailor announced who was still alive and named all the men as they walked on to dry land. Ben walked off one of the rescue boats' safety, and Sharon hugged him with tears of relief. Julia, Sharon, I am getting very worried because neither Dad nor Trap has got off any of the rescue boats yet. Sharon: They're alive. I promise that to you, my beloved sister. Julia: But what if the one person that lost his life was Trap or our dad? Sharon: No, sister, my dear, it will not be, and I promise again that they will be fine. The sailor announced to the sisters that their father was alive, so Sharon and Julia went and hugged him in relief, and so did Peter, Dawn, and Maria. Sharon, smiling: There you are, Julia. Dad is fine, and Trap will come to us any minute too. But Sharon was very wrong because there was still no sign of Trap coming off one of the rescue boats. The sailor by then had announced every other man's name. By this time, Sharon was getting worried, but did not let Julia notice her worry, and then Julia looked at Julia and held her hand, and then suddenly Sailor came over and said, Sailor: I'm so really sorry, Julia. I have terrible news for you. The man who was not rescued in time was your husband, Trap. He didn't make it out of the ship safe. My colleague just informed me that he drowned on the ship, as my colleagues tried to rescue him out of the watery room where the seawater filled. Julia just fainted on the ground in disbelief, and later she woke up crying her eyes out, and Sharon just hugged her, and Julia was pondering deep within her soul, questioning why did it have to be her Trap that died. Julia's dad comforted the children as they cried into the grandfather's arms. The family was in Canada, and it was cold. They started the onward journey home by traveling on different horses and carriages in turns, and staying at different hotels on the way down. They all just hugged together under the same blanket as they journeyed down back to America. Most of the time, Julia would just lay with her head on either her dad's or Sharon's shoulder, with tears in her eyes as they hugged her to comfort her. Trap's body was carried back down by horse and cart that followed behind the family to take the dead body back to be buried in America. Julia was too upset to identify the body, so her dad, Ben, and Sharon had done it for her. That month of traveling back to America seemed to be the worst month ever that went so slowly. It was cold, and the family had all got hungry, and Julia and the children were grieving heavily. Meanwhile, Malcolm and Joyce got close. Not in a physical way, they never went all the way together, but she seemed to provide comfort for his broken wounds over Christina and helped him to grieve properly without the sexual attention, and she even seemed to have a calming effect over his soul. He became less angry and stopped doing the foolish things so much. He had been, but seemed to be more settled now, and he was continuing to be a really amazing single dad to little Christina. Joyce even sometimes babysat for Malcolm, because when Riley, Nick, and Phoebe moved out, Malcolm usually took Christina into work with him, but now Joyce was around and she was helping out. Once on the way home, Sharon had given Julia some good advice. Sharon grabbing her hand. Julia, you need Malcolm and his friendship. I know you both still really love each other, and even if you never get back together as lovers, he will always be the best friend you ever had. Julia, sobbing. Sharon, this is karma, all my fault. I should have married Malcolm from the start, and I should have never left for Russia. I am so sorry, Dad and sister. Sharon hugging her darling sister. Of course, we all forgive you, and all will work out in the end. You just wait and see. Julia, except I'm a single mom now and will bring the children up without their father. Sharon, we will not leave you alone. We will all be here for you, and we all understand that grief is very hard to deal with, but we will all listen to you. Their dad, your sister is right, sweetheart. We are all going to help you get through this, and I agree you need to visit Malcolm. He knows how you feel. He also lost his spouse. Julia then just burst into tears again. Her dad comforts her, and Ben and Sharon comfort the children, crying into their auntie's arms. Julia and the children then just drift off into a deep sleep, and Julia fell into a dream. In her dream, she was shown that Trap had made it into heaven after all, and Julia heard God's voice telling her that because Trap repentance was genuine and not just a show, that was the reason why he was in heaven. Trap then in her dream approached her, telling her that he loved her very much, but that she had to let him go because the children and Julia had a life to live here on Earth. He informs her that he would always love her and the children, but that he wanted her to go and find Malcolm and marry him. Julia woke up panicking and screaming out Trap's name, crying her eyes out that she jumped off the carriage. Sharon, sister, what on earth are you doing? Julia jumped out of the carriage that she was traveling with her family in. Then she stood in front of the carriage traveling behind them. The driver of the carriage halted the horses, and the carriage stopped. Their dad, Julia, stop acting foolish. We all know that you are grief-stricken, but this is crazy. You could have got yourself killed. Then your children would have no mother either, so please stop this. But Julia was not listening, and she did not stop, but ran up to Trap's coffin and tried to open it, saying, "He's not dead. He just visited me in my dream." Sharon jumped off the carriage and ran up to Julia, pulling me away. "Julia, my dear, please stop it because you're upsetting yourself and the children." Julia went back and looked inside their carriage to hear Peter, Dawn, and Maria are weeping and calling out for their dad and pleading Julia to come back. Julia, Trap is alive, Sharon. I know this because I had a dream where he was talking to me from heaven. Get him out of this coffin now. Sharon slapped Julia across the face to calm her down. Sister, I love you so much, but you have to let Trap go. He is gone, darling. Yes, he is gone. Julia was left standing, cried her eyes out, and screamed. It was raining heavily. The road was dirty, and the sister was getting them and their clothes dirty. Sharon hugged Julia close, and she hugged her back. Then the children jump out the carriage, crying, and they all, including their dad and Ben, had a group hug, and then they got back in the carriage again homeward. Julia just goes back to sleep again on Sharon's shoulders, with Sharon puts her arm round Julia, and with the sister's dad in the middle of the children, with his arms rounds them all. As Julia went back to sleep, she had that same reoccurring dream again of Trap meeting her and telling her to find Malcolm and to marry him. The family stopped at another hotel, and very kindly Ben was paying for all of them to travel back and stay in each hotel and for food. The family then sat down for dinner at this hotel, but Julia and the children didn't feel like eating. Sharon, sister darling, I know that you have gone of meat, but please eat the bread, cheese, and vegetables. You need your strength for you and the children. Julia, no, sister. I just lost my husband, so I am in no wise hungry. And she pushed the food away and sulked. But the family stayed there for the night. Meanwhile, back at Malcolm's, he has been on a nice date with Joyce again, which they had been doing for a few nights out by then. But one day she wanted to do a tarot card reading on Malcolm, in which in desperation he allowed Joyce to do. Malcolm looking on a bit worried. What does my card say? Joyce smiling that you will find true and permanent, genuine love very soon. Malcolm smiling and holding Joyce's hand. I was hoping that you would say that. Yes, indeed, just as I wanted to hear. That night, however, after Joyce had gone home and everyone gone back to bed, he had a dream, and in this dream he had another visit from his wife. Christina came to visit him, telling him not to trust in tarot cards and fortune readings because they were not God's will for him, but she also did tell him that it was true that he would find true love again, but not to go about it foolishly or through tarot cards ever again. Malcolm felt a sense of peace, and he woke up and got out of bed, walked over to the cot, and smiled at baby Christina. Malcolm, what is the answer and meaning of my dreams, and of life in general, my little princess? Baby Christina smiled and pointed to a crucifix on the table above her. It was if she was trying to lead her dad back to God, and Malcolm really took Christian points to the cross deep to heart and mind. As he went back to bed, he tossed and turned all night long after thinking about it all. The next morning, he phoned Joyce to come around. Malcolm, Joyce, honey, please sit down. I need to talk to you. Joyce, Malcolm, today I have my crystal ball. I can really take your future now. Malcolm, honey, wait. Listen, sweetheart, you are a really nice person and you have helped me in coping with my life again and mean so much to me and baby Christina. But we just are two different people. I don't really do crystal balls or tarot cards. I love you, but I can't take the relationship any further because in the end it just won't work out. Joyce, with tears coming down her face. I understand, Malcolm. You mean the world to me too, and are really nice and genuine. But you're right, we are two different people and probably won't work out. But we can stay friends. Malcolm, of course we will, you better giggles slightly. Come give us a hug. So they have a hug and agree to staying friends. Joyce leaves and smiles, and Malcolm smiles and winks back at her. Malcolm, one day I will come and find you if things ever change. But Joyce misunderstood what he was really saying. In fact, he was not even thinking about Joyce, but he was thinking about his beloved Julia. And if she ever split up with Trap, if he ever cheated on her, which deep in his heart, he was hoping he would so that he could be together with his beloved Julia again, that he would come for Julia and marry her at last. He did not know at that point that Trap was dead. But Joyce, she thought he was saying it about her and that one day he would definitely come for her again. So she went off smiling and kept the hope in her heart. Meanwhile, the family was all still journeying back to America.